the night San Antonio went silent. The San Antonio Spurs did not just lose the NBA Finals. They lost the kind of game that follows a franchise into the offseason like a shadow. One moment, their fans were standing inside Frostbank Center, believing they were watching the beginning of a comeback. The next moment, the building went quiet. The Knicks were celebrating, and San Antonio was left staring at a brutal truth nobody wanted to say out loud. This was supposed to be the arrival of a new Spurs era. Victor Wembanyama was already looking like the face of the future. The young core was rising faster than anyone expected. The city believed again, but when the pressure reached its highest point, the Spurs did not look like a team ready to finish the job. They looked like a team still trying to understand who they really were. And at the center of that storm stood De'Aaron Fox. Fox was not brought to San Antonio to simply be good. He was brought there to be the steady hand, the veteran star, the player who could calm everything down when the game turned chaotic. But in the biggest moments of the season, the questions became louder than the answers. The contract was massive. The expectations were massive. And after the Spurs watched the championship slip away on their home floor, every mistake felt even heavier. The pain was not just about losing to New York. It was about how it happened. Double-digit leads disappeared. Late-game decisions collapsed. Young players who looked ready for the moment were left waiting. And now, only hours after the final buzzer, San Antonio's front office is facing a decision that could shape the next decade of the franchise. Do they keep believing in Fox, or do they admit that the future may already belong to Wembanyama, Dylan Harper, and Stephon Castle? This is not just an offseason rumor. This is a franchise standing at the edge of a new identity. Before we go deeper, comment where you are watching from right now. If you think the Spurs should trade De'Aaron Fox, press 1. If you think they should give him one more chance, press 2. And if you believe Wembanyama's dynasty is only beginning, subscribe now, because this story is just getting started. The collapse that changed everything. Before San Antonio lost the finals, before the trade rumors exploded, before the entire basketball world started questioning De'Aaron Fox, there was one night that changed the whole direction of the series. Game 4. The Spurs had the game in their hands. Not just a small lead, not just a lucky run. San Antonio was up by 29 points on the biggest stage in basketball, with a chance to even the finals and bring the entire series back to life. The crowd could feel it. The players could feel it. For a while, it looked like the Knicks were finally breaking. But championship pressure does strange things to a team. Slowly, New York started cutting into the lead. One stop became 2, one basket became a run. The Spurs began playing tight, almost like they were trying not to lose instead of trying to win. Every missed shot made the building more nervous. Every Knicks possession felt heavier. And suddenly, what looked like a safe lead became a nightmare. Then came the final second. San Antonio was still holding on by 1 point. De'Aaron Fox had the ball. This was the moment he was paid for. This was the moment veteran stars are supposed to control. But instead of slowing the game, instead of making the cleanest decision, Fox attacked the rim and met OG Anunoby at the glass. Blocked. In 1 second, the entire final shifted. The Knicks got life, the Spurs lost control, and New York turned that mistake into the kind of win that destroys a team from the inside. A 2-9 point lead was gone. A chance to tie the series was gone. And San Antonio walked off the floor knowing they had not just lost the game, they had handed momentum, belief, and psychological control to New York. That is why Game 4 mattered so much. It was not just a bad loss. It was the moment the Spurs stopped looking like a young team ahead of schedule and started looking like a young team that still did not know how to close. And once that doubt entered the room, it never left. The silence inside Frostbank Center, Game 5, was supposed to be San Antonio's response. Back home, season on the line, fans standing behind them, one last chance to prove that Game 4 was just a nightmare, not a warning. For most teams, that kind of humiliation either breaks them or wakes them up, and early in Game 5, it looked like the Spurs still had fight left. They defended hard, they made New York uncomfortable. Wembanyama protected the paint like a giant shadow over every possession. For a while, the Knicks looked frustrated, and the crowd inside Frostbank Center started to believe again. Then the pattern returned. Another lead, another shift, another slow collapse. San Antonio led by double digits again, but nobody in the building felt safe anymore. After what happened in Game 4, every Spurs fan knew the truth. No lead was big enough if the team could not finish. The Knicks kept pushing, Jalen Brunson kept attacking, New York waited for San Antonio to tighten up, and when the pressure came, the Spurs had no clean answer. The most painful part was not that San Antonio lost, it was that the ending felt familiar. The offense slowed down, the spacing got worse, The wrong players seemed to control the biggest possessions. The young guys who had given the team energy were not trusted enough when the season was hanging by a thread. And once New York took the lead late, the silence inside the arena told the whole story. Spurs fans were not just watching a game slip away. They were watching a finals dream disappear in real time. When the final buzzer sounded, the Knicks celebrated a championship moment, while San Antonio stood frozen in the wreckage. No dramatic comeback, no miracle shot, no heroic ending. Just the brutal reality of a team that had been close enough to touch history, but not mature enough to grab it. And in that silence, one question became impossible to ignore. Who failed the Spurs more, the players on the floor or the people making the decision? The De'Aaron Fox problem. De'Aaron Fox is not a bad basketball player. That is what makes this situation so complicated. He is fast. He can score. He can create. He has been an all-star level guard before, and during the regular season, he gave San Antonio real production. But the NBA Finals do not judge players by regular season averages. The Finals expose everything. They reveal who can survive the pressure, who can control chaos, and who becomes smaller when the lights get brighter. For Fox, the answer was painful. The numbers were not terrible on paper, but the moments were. And in the NBA, moments decide legacies, a missed read, a blocked layup, a rushed possession. A late game decision that gave New York exactly what it needed. Those are the plays people remember when a team loses the final. The contract only makes it worse. When a player is making more than $200 million, he is not paid to be simply solid. He is paid to be trusted when everyone else is nervous. He is paid to make the game easier for the young superstar next to him. He is paid to be the answer, not the question. But after this finals, Fox became the biggest question in San Antonio. Can the Spurs really build around Wembanyama while giving Fox that much control? Can they keep developing Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle if Fox continues taking the ball, the minutes, and the late game trust? Can San Antonio afford to wait another year if the better future is already sitting on the bench? That is why the trade rumors feel so dangerous. They are not just emotional reactions from angry fans. They make basketball sense. The Spurs have young guards rising fast. They need more size, more shooting, more wing strength, and more pieces that fit naturally around Wembanyama. If trading Fox gives them that, the front office has to consider it. This is the cold part of the NBA. A player can be talented and still not be the right fit. A player can be respected and still become expendable. And after the finals, De'Aaron Fox is standing in the most uncomfortable place a star can stand between what he has been and what the franchise now needs. Dylan Harper changed the conversation. While everyone was talking about De'Aaron Fox's mistakes, Dylan Harper was quietly changing San Antonio's future. He was not supposed to force this conversation so soon. He was young. He was still learning. He was expected to grow slowly behind the veterans, take his moments, make mistakes, and wait his turn. But the playoffs do not care about age. They reveal readiness faster than any regular season ever could. And Harper looked ready. Every time he came into the game, the energy changed. He attacked the rim with confidence. He rebounded like a guard who understood the moment. He made plays without looking overwhelmed. Most importantly, he looked fearless in the kind of minutes where some veterans looked uncertain. That is why his role became such a major talking. When a young player keeps giving you production, keeps giving you energy, and keeps looking comfortable under pressure, the coaching staff has to reward that. But in the biggest moments of the finals, Harper was not always trusted the way many fans believed he should have been. And that decision made the Fox situation look even worse. Because if Harper can already give San Antonio scoring, creation, downhill pressure, and long-term upside, then what exactly is Fox blocking? That is the uncomfortable question. The Spurs are not rebuilding anymore. They are ahead of schedule. They reached the finals with one of the youngest cores in basketball, and Harper was a huge reason the future looks so exciting. His emergence gives San Antonio options. It gives them leverage. It gives them the courage to imagine a version of the team where Fox is no longer necessary. And that is where the story turns. This is not just about one veteran failing in the finals. This is about a young player rising so quickly that the franchise may have to change its plan around him. Harper did not scream for attention. He earned it, possession by possession, game by game. He made it harder for the Spurs to ignore what was happening. The future was not waiting anymore. It was already on the floor. Stefon Castle is no longer a prospect. For most NBA teams, finding one future star is difficult. The Spurs may have accidentally found three. While Victor Wembanyama continues to dominate headlines and Dylan Harper keeps forcing his way into the spotlight, another name is becoming impossible to overlook. Stefon Castle. What makes Castle special is not just his talent. It is the way he impacts games without demanding attention. Every championship team needs players who embrace difficult assignments, who defend elite scores, who make winning plays when nobody is watching. Castle already looks like that kind of player. Throughout the playoffs, he became one of San Antonio's most reliable performers. He defended multiple positions. He attacked when opportunities appeared. He showed maturity far beyond his age. Most importantly, he never looked intimidated by the stage. That matters, because while veterans around the league were struggling under finals pressure, Castle looked comfortable. He looked like someone who belonged. And suddenly, the Spurs found themselves staring at a reality that would have sounded impossible just a year ago. Wembanyama, Harper, Castle, 3 young players, 3 cornerstone pieces, 3 potential stars growing together at the same time. The deeper people looked at the roster, the more obvious the question became. If these 3 are the future, should the organization continue building around expensive veterans, or should everything now revolve around maximizing their development? That question is driving nearly every conversation inside San Antonio, because championship windows are precious. And when a franchise discovers multiple young stars at once, every roster decision becomes magnified. Castle's rise is not just a nice story. It may be one of the biggest reasons the Spurs are preparing for major changes. The coach who couldn't escape the spotlight. When a team loses the NBA Finals, everyone looks for the first person to blame. Sometimes it is the star player. Sometimes it is the front office. Sometimes it is one missed shot, one bad possession, one mistake that becomes replayed again and again until it feels bigger than the entire season. But when a team blows a massive lead, loses control late, and watches the same problems appear in back-to-back games, the spotlight eventually reaches the head coach. For Mitch Johnson, that spotlight became impossible to escape. Johnson deserves respect for what he accomplished. He took a young Spurs team into the finals faster than almost anyone expected. He helped guide Victor Wembanyama through a historic playoff run. He gave Stephon Castle room to grow. He watched Dylan Harper become one of the most exciting young players in the postseason. For most first-year coaches, that would be a dream season. But the finals are not judged like the regular season. In the finals, every timeout matters, every rotation matters, every late-game decision can change a franchise's future. And that is where Johnson's season became complicated. Fans could not understand why Harper was not trusted more in the closing minutes. They could not understand why the offense kept leaning on Fox when the rhythm was clearly broken. They could not understand why New York kept adjusting while San Antonio looked trapped in the same mistakes. That does not mean Johnson failed as a coach. It means he reached the part of the job where development is no longer enough. A young team can grow under a patient coach. A championship team needs a coach who can win the final 5 minutes against elite opponents. That is the difference San Antonio must now face. Johnson did not throw his players under the bus. He did not panic publicly. He accepted responsibility, and that matters. But private accountability must now become visible improvement. Because next season, the Spurs will not surprise anyone. Teams will prepare for Wembanyama differently. Defenses will study Harper. Coaches will attack Castle's weaknesses. And every late-game decision Johnson makes will be compared to the mistakes from this finals. That is the burden of coming close. Mitch Johnson helped bring San Antonio back to the NBA's biggest stage. Now, he has to prove he is the right coach to keep them there. Everything leads back to Wembanyama. No matter how loud the Fox rumors get, no matter how much blame falls on Mitch Johnson, and no matter how much excitement Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle create, every serious conversation in San Antonio begins with one name: Victor Wembanyama. He is the reason this loss hurts so badly, but he is also the reason the future still feels dangerous for the rest of the NBA. Even in defeat, Wembanyama looked like the one piece San Antonio cannot afford to waste. He protected the rim. He changed shots that never even showed up in the box score. He forced the Knicks to think twice before attacking the paint. And when a two-year-old can make the NBA Finals feel like only the beginning, the entire franchise has a responsibility to move faster, smarter, and colder. That is why this offseason is not normal. The Spurs are no longer asking, how do we become relevant again? They already answered that. They reached the finals. They woke up the fan base. They proved the league has to take them seriously. Now, the question is much bigger. How do they build a championship machine around Wembanyama before bad decisions waste his early prime? That means every player must be judged by fit, not reputation. Every contract must be judged by value, not popularity. Every lineup must make Wembanyama's life easier, not heavier. If Fox needs the ball too much, that matters. If Harper gives the offense more energy, that matters. If Castle brings defense, size, and toughness, that matters. If the Spurs lack a true floor spacing forward, that matters even more. Because Wembanyama should not have to carry everything. The best version of San Antonio is not just Wembanyama, blocking shots and saving broken possessions. The best version is Wembanyama surrounded by players who create space, defend with discipline, move without ego, and understand that the entire system must serve winning. This is where the Spurs must be on. They have the generational star, they have young guards, they have assets, they have flexibility. What they cannot afford is emotional decision-making. Wembanyama is not waiting for comfort. He is waiting for a roster built to win. And after losing the finals, San Antonio finally understands the difference. The trade that could change a dynasty. Trading De'Aaron Fox would not be a small move. It would be a message. It would tell the entire NBA that San Antonio is done being patient with anything that does not fit the Wembanyama timeline. It would tell the locker room that the future is no longer theoretical. It is already here. And it would tell Harper and Castle that the franchise is ready to trust them with more responsibility. That is why this decision is so powerful. Fox is talented enough to help a team. He is fast, experienced, and capable of big scoring nights. But San Antonio is not simply asking whether Fox is good. That is the wrong question. The real question is whether Fox is the right player beside Wembanyama, Harper, and Castle. And after the finals, that answer became much harder to defend. The Spurs need balance. They need a wing who can guard elite scorers. They need a forward who can shoot from the corners, attack closeouts, and punish teams that overload toward Wembanyama. They need players who make the court bigger, not smaller. They need someone who gives Wembanyama more oxygen on offense and more protection on defense. That is why a Fox trade could change everything. If San Antonio turns Fox into the right forward, the entire roster suddenly makes more sense. Harper can grow as a creator. Castle can stay aggressive as a two-way weapon. Wembanyama gets more space. The offense becomes cleaner. The defense becomes longer. The timeline becomes younger, cheaper, and more flexible. But there is risk. Trade the wrong player for the wrong return. And the Spurs could lose a proven guard for pieces that never become enough. Keep Fox too long, and they could block the growth of the young core while paying superstar money for something less than superstar impact. That is the pressure inside the front office now. This is not about blaming one player for losing the finals. Basketball is never that simple. Fox did not lose alone. Johnson did not fail alone. The young players did not carry enough alone. But championship teams are built by making painful evaluations after painful endings. San Antonio just received its painful ending. Now comes the choice. Do they protect the present or do they unlock the future? If they get this right, the finals loss may become the moment that created a dynasty. If they get it wrong, it may become the first warning sign they ignored. The pain that could build a dynasty. Every championship journey has one moment that stays with a franchise forever. For the San Antonio Spurs, this may be that moment. Not the celebration, not the parade, not the champagne, not the confetti falling in their colors. The pain, the silence. The image of a young team standing on its home floor, watching another team celebrate what they believed could have been theirs. That is what makes this finals loss so powerful. San Antonio was not a team with no future. They were not a lucky underdog that accidentally reached the biggest stage. They were a real contender, built around one of the most unique young stars the NBA has ever seen. And that is why losing this way hurts even more. But pain can do two things to a team. It can break them, or it can teach them exactly who they need to become. For the Spurs, the lesson is clear. Talent is not enough. Promise is not enough. A great young core is not enough. If this team wants to become a champion, every decision must be made with discipline, honesty, and courage. Victor Wembanyama is the center of everything now. The franchise must protect his timeline, maximize his strengths, and surround him with players who make the game easier. Dylan Harper and Stefon Castle have shown they are not just future pieces. They are real parts of the present. Their development cannot be delayed by fear or loyalty to old plans. That does not mean every veteran must go. It means every role must be earned. Every contract must make sense. Every lineup must serve the bigger goal. And that bigger goal is simple. Build a team that can win when the lights are brightest. The Spurs must learn from the blown leads. They must learn from the late game mistakes. They must learn from the coaching questions. They must learn from the pressure that exposed them. Because great organizations do not hide from failure. They study it. They accept it. Then they return stronger. Maybe De'Aaron Fox stays. Maybe he gets traded. Maybe Mitch Johnson grows from this and becomes the right coach for the next chapter. Maybe the front office makes the bold move that changes everything. Whatever happens next, San Antonio cannot waste this lesson. Because Wembanyama gives them something most franchises never get. A real chance to build an era. Not just one great season, not just one finals run, an era. And if the Spurs make the right choices now, this painful ending may one day be remembered as the beginning of something much bigger. So yes, The Knicks won the championship. Yes, San Antonio fell short. Yes, the loss was brutal. But the story is not over. The Spurs are still young. Their foundation is still elite. Their future is still terrifying. And sometimes the team that loses the finals is the team that learns the most from it. The next version of San Antonio must be smarter, tougher, and more ruthless in basketball decisions. But it must also stay grounded in the values that made the franchise respected for decades: patience, development, teamwork, and trust. That is the balance. Chase greatness, but do not panic. Make hard choices, but do not lose the identity. Build around Wembanyama, but build the right way. Because championships are not only won with talent, they are won with sacrifice, timing, leadership, and the courage to change before it is too late. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share with other NBA fans. And before you leave, comment your answer below. Press 1 if you think the Spurs should trade De'Aaron Fox. Press 2 if you think they should give him one more chance. Press 3 if you believe Victor Wembanyama will bring multiple championships to San Antonio. And tell us where you are watching from, because the Spurs story is only getting started.